I am so surprised to see that the condemned descendants of the Kuru dynasty, who so unlawfully occupied the throne of the Kuru kingdom, are criticizing Krishna with diplomatic devices. Oh, this is intolerable. This is another instance of eagerness for violence caused by dishonor to Krishna. Yeah, Prabhupada says, well, there's another place in the Nectar of Devotion that talks about blasphemy. That when a devotee hears blasphemy, he should immediately endeavor to silence the person who is blaspheming Krishna, the spiritual master, or the devotees, or the Vedic literature. That these are such terrible offenses that if you hear these blasphemous statements and you don't do something to counteract them, then you also become embroiled in offenses. And we've seen this. We've seen some of our students who heard blasphemous statements and they couldn't counteract them. And so they fell down. We've seen this happen. If you can't counteract or silence the critic, then you have to leave the place. You have to leave the association. Just like, who was the younger brother of King Pandu? And Dhritarashtra, Vidura. Vidura was very, very tolerant and patient, and he tried to convince his elder brother Dhritarashtra not to become engaged in the plot against the Pandavas. And for years, he kept advising him, don't do it, don't do it. And he kept giving in, Dhritarashtra kept giving in to his son Duryodhana. So finally, Duryodhana insulted Krishna. I mean, the whole time he was criticizing Vidura. But then one day he insulted Lord Krishna. And that was too much. Vidura left. He took off his royal crown and he put down his bow and arrow and other symbols of royal status, and he simply left the palace. So, because he knew he couldn't fight against Duryodhana. Duryodhana was too powerful. So because he couldn't fight and stop him, he simply left. This is the correct etiquette in the case of hearing blasphemy. So now, next section is haughtiness resulting in dishonorable words. In the Vidagdha Madhava, Jatila, the mother-in-law of Radharani, began to criticize Krishna in this way. Krishna, you are standing here, and Radharani, who has just been married to my son, is also standing here. Now I know both of you very well, so why should I not be very anxious to protect my daughter-in-law from your dancing eyes? This is an instance of dishonorable words used to indirectly criticize Krishna. Jatila is like, she's like the anti-heroine in Krishna's pastimes. Like early in the morning, when Radha and Krishna are in their bower, peacefully sleeping, and they don't want to get up because they're so happy. Vrinda Devi has her pet monkey start going, Jatila! Jatila! And Radha and Krishna wake up and they're like very alert all of a sudden. Yeah, the monkey's name is Kataki. Kataki, she goes. And Kataki knows his job, huh? So he jumps up on the tree, you know, he's like, Jatila! Jatila! So he's the lookout, so they listen to him. Similarly, some of the gopis once began to address Krishna with these dishonorable words. My dear Krishna, you are a first-class thief, so please leave this place immediately. We know you love Chandravali more than us, but there is no use in praising her in our presence. kindly do not contaminate the name of Radharani in this place. This is another instance of dishonorable words cast upon Krishna in ecstatic love. Now, this is called loving anger. And it's a special feature of the gopis in Radharani's group. Radharani and her girls, they specialize in this particular mood, loving anger. It's very hard to understand this if we have experience in materialistic relationships, because in those relationships, when a quarrel occurs between lovers, it usually ends up in the relationship breaking up, at least after some time. But there's no possibility of the relationship between Radha and Krishna breaking up. Simply, it's not possible, because they're part of each other. They really are one. They'll never break up. But sometimes there are pastimes where they appear to be angry. Especially Radharani will appear to be angry. And she'll kick Krishna out. These words are probably spoken by, what's that name? Gopi's name? Lalita. Lalita is very, very strong, staunch supporter of Srimati Radharani. And if there's any tiny insult to Radharani, oh boy, Krishna's in the doghouse. So, anyway. There is another statement in the 10th canto, 31st chapter, verse 16 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. When all the gopis came out of their homes to meet Krishna in the Vrindavan forest, Krishna refused to accept them and asked them to go home, even giving them some moral instructions. At that time, the gopis spoke as follows. Dear Krishna, there is extreme distress in being out of your presence, and there is extreme happiness simply in seeing you. Therefore, we have left all our husbands, relatives, brothers, and friends, and have simply come to you, being captivated by the sound of your transcendental flute. O infallible one, you had better know the reason for our coming here. In plain words, we are here simply because we have been captivated by the sweet sound of your flute. We are all beautiful girls, and you are so foolish that you are rejecting our association. We do not know anyone other than you who would miss this opportunity to associate with young girls in the dead of night. This is another instance of indirect insults used against Krishna in ecstatic love. It's very beautiful. So if you haven't read it yet, you should read this 31st chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Actually, 30, 31, and 32 are, 10th canto. Yeah. The Rasa dance. I'm not going to say any more, just read it. Envy. In the Padyavali, one of the friends of Radharani once addressed her thus. My dear friend, please do not be too puffed up because Krishna has decorated your forehead with his own hand. It may be that Krishna is yet attracted by some other beautiful girl. I see that the decoration on your forehead is very nicely made, and so it appears that Krishna was not too disturbed in painting it. Otherwise, he could not have painted such exact lines. Ooh. This is an instance of envy caused by Radha's good fortune. I mean, there's nobody can be more cutting with sharp words than young girls. Boy, I'll tell you. And put an insult within a compliment. Oh boy. Anyway, in the 10th canto, 30th chapter, verse 30 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there is the following statement. When the gopis were searching for Krishna and Radha after the rasa dance, They thus began to speak among themselves. We have seen the footprints of Krishna and Radha on the ground of Vrindavan, and they are giving us great pain. Because although Krishna is everything to us, that girl is so cunning that she has taken him away alone and is enjoying his kissing without sharing him with us. This is another instance of envy of the good fortune of Srimati Radharani. Sometimes when the cowherd boys used to play in the forests of Vrindavan, Krishna would play on one side and Balaram would play on another. There would be competition and mock fighting between the two parties. And when Krishna's party was defeated by Balaram, the boys would say, "If Balaram's party remains victorious, then who in the world can be weaker than ourselves?" This is another instance of envy and ecstatic love. Impudence.